Hi, welcome to this demo again. In our previous video, remember we created an ERC20 smart contract, and our smart contract was implementing an interface that we had created earlier on. Then we went ahead to create some state variables and our constructor. In this video, we are going to create 6 functions. Remember, in our interface we declared 6 functions with no implementation. Now we are going to implement those functions, and like I said before, you have other functions that makes up the ERC20 token standard, but you must implement 6 of them for your token to be ERC20 compliant. So let's go ahead and start creating the function. The first function that we're going to create is called balance of. I'll tell you what balance of is used for. So let's just go ahead. Function balance of. Balance of is going to take an address, the owner's address, or the address of who you want to check the balance. We are going to make it public view override, because remember we are overriding the methods defined in the interface, and it's going to return uint 256 called balance. So this method simply return balances of owner. So we've created one of the function. We've created the first function, and what this function is used to do is to return the balance of an address. As you can see, it takes an address and it's going to return the balance of this address. So how that happens is that, remember, we have balances that it's a state variable that we declared that maps an address to a uint. So once we pass an address, it returns the uint, which is the amount attached to that address. So let's create the second function, which is called approve. I don't like doing this, sorry. So approve is going to take 2 parameters. One is going to be an address of a spender, and the second is going to be a uint. Let's make it value. The function is going to return a boolean. So the approve function, what it does is that it approves an amount of money for a particular address. Okay, that's simply what it does. It approves for a particular address to be able to spend an amount of money on behalf of the caller. So let's do the implementation. So what we are, I'll explain each of the line. Okay, let me just go ahead and implement it. So we are emitting some informations here. So what happens here is that we are assigning a value or an amount that is approved to a spender. Okay, remember we have this dynamic variable called allowed, and allowed is a map that maps into another map. So we are, for the key for the first map, it's the message.sender, and the second map is the spender, and the third value is the amount that this sender is approving for this spender to be able to spend. And the next line, we are emitting the approval event. Remember, in our ERC20 interface, we declared two events. This is one of them, called approval, and it takes these parameters. So in our during the implementation, we emit approval, and so this is going to communicate the message of sender, the spender, and the value that was approved for this spender to whoever calls, whoever cares to listen to. So let's proceed to the next function. The next function is called allowance, and this is going to take two parameters. Takes an address and another address. Of spender. So let's make it public view, since we are not writing. And it returns a uint 256 called remaining. So the allowance function, what it does is that it returns the amount of money that is allowed for a spender to spend. Okay, so it simply returns okay, so that's what this function does. It returns the amount that was approved for a particular spender to spend, okay, by someone, by some other persons. So that's what this function does. Let's create the fourth function called total supply. So total supply takes no parameter. And it returns a uint 256 called tot supply. So this function does one thing. It returns the total supply of tokens currently in circulation. So let's make it to return I'm trying to figure out what's causing this error. So function total supply publicly, the error has, oh no, yeah, public view override returns, yep. Okay, saying identifier already declared. Yeah, I think this is a minor error. Let's continue with creating other functions. So for other functions, we have two more functions to go. We have the transfer and transfer from. So to make this video shorter, I'm just going to copy the command for the function transfer and also the function transfer from. I'm going to explain what each of them does, okay? So we just added two more functions. The first one is transfer. This is used to transfer value to a particular address. Okay, so you use this function. The person who calls this function uses it to transfer an amount of tokens from his or her own address to a particular address. And what happens inside the method is also simple. What happens is that we use a require statement to check if the balance of the person that is calling this function that wants to send an amount to an address is greater than the value that wants to be sent. Okay, if that's not true, it returns insufficient funds for transfer source. So it means the person calling this function does not have enough amount to be sent. So then after we've made the check, what we do is that we decrement the balance of the sender, which is the message of sender, by the value. We decrement that account by the value or the amount that needs to be sent. Then we also increment the account, the balances of the person that the money is being sent to, and we emit a transfer event. And we send the message of sender, the total, and the value that was sent back to whoever, and we return true. So that's what this method does. Then the next function, what this function does is that it transfers an amount from one address to another address. Okay, so the person that calls this function in this context, we call the person the message of sender, which is the sender. The person that calls this function uses this function to transfer token from one account to another account, and we use the require statement to make sure that the from account is greater than the value that needs to be sent, and the allowance that was approved for this entity is also greater than the value to be sent, else it prints out the insufficient allowed funds. Then we go ahead and increment the balances of the to address and decrement the balances of the from address, and that's basically it. Then we emit a transfer event sending the from, the to, and the value. So this is our ERC20 token that is implementing our interface. So with these functions, you are ready to go to create your own ERC compliance token. It has in as much as you implement the right state variables and the different functions, you are good to go. I am going to try to sort out this error. Okay, we'll try to do this in the next video. See you in the next video. Thank you very much.